Hey yo guys, it is me, Sharktopus117, your humble host on the Colossal Kaiju fan podcast. I can't speak English today, guys. I'm sorry, but you may of course all call me Sharky. And joining me today are my wonderful co-hosts. Once again, I can't words. We have Spotted Alien. Welcome back.
Hello.
And we have a new co-host. For the first time, a triple threat. We have Hungry Zombie on the show with us tonight. Welcome to the show, Hungry Zombie.
Hey there, Sharky. It's great to be here.
So, yeah, last episode, lots of fun. But it hasn't come out yet at the time of this recording. It'll probably come out the next day or the day after. So I can't really get back to any of you guys on what you thought of that. But I can talk about episode, what was it, 4? Which was with Katusha and Tornak, and yeah, I mean, that was the thing that happened. So there you go. Now, today, this is on episode 6, I think, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it should be about 6.
Yeah, this is 6. It's 6 now.
Yep.
And we have named this episode Loch of the Irish. We have pretty bad reasons, honestly, but I mean, it's the best thing we can come up with. So yeah, deal with it.
We're working with an eel with coral and earth, so what have you.
Yeah, I mean, Mortitan's kind of like Mortitan's an eel, and an eel's serpentine, and serpentine is kind of like the Loch Ness monster, and the Loch Ness monster's
That's
in Scotland.
man.
That's in Scotland, but I mean, that's kind of close to Ireland, so I mean, it's close enough. It makes sense if you don't think about it.
If you don't look at geography, then
Yeah.
Geometry.
then it
Oh
makes
no.
perfect sense. That too.
Curse you and your non-Euclidean geometry. But yeah, I'd say without further ado, I don't think we have anything else we need to discuss discussion. Let's get right into this with Tersakra. So the first kaiju we have to discuss today is Tersakra, and here to teach us a little bit about Tersakraology is Professor Zombie, who is a noted
Professor.
PhD in the field. Professor, what do you have to give for us today?
I don't know where you thought I got my credentials, Sharky, but I'll see what I can do. Introducing the Blarney Stone Behemoth himself. He is a whopping monster. He is the tallest guy in the game so far. In the second heaviest, right after the fat guy.
Macrosaurus.
Yes, Macrosaurus. He is big. He is tough. He is old as hell being 4,000 years old. Let's see.
We have to have an older kaiju than that, though, right?
Well,
Somewhere
right
in this
now
game.
right now in the game, he seems kind of old. Unless you're gonna pull off, is Nemesis older or some?
I
that-
guess.
Like
Maybe Kiranex.
Oh yeah, Kiranex. Kiranex is older.
Well, I meant in the first
That
game.
is true, though. He's not in the game yet.
I suppose you could pull off the BS Macrosaur time travel thing. Anyway, I'm getting offhand. He is a massive, basically Ankylosaurus kind of guy. Now, he's a kaiju after my own heart, because his basic style of fighting is to beat the ever-loving crap out of everything around him.
So
Sounds very good.
Yeah.
Oh.
So basically, Tersakra comes from Ireland, and he kind of is just the manifestation of magic in Ireland, and he just kind of chills there and is like a guardian of the land and stuff. So he's got a pretty basic backstory, nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, a couple of mentions to prior battles with demons and sorceresses. But other than that, it's pretty, vague.
Yeah, pretty vague, which I kind of like. It does make him feel like an old war hero, like, oh, back in my day when I fought the sorceress of the unspoken, you wouldn't believe the things, like that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So design-wise, he's pretty awesome, actually. As Zombie said, he does look a lot like an Ankylosaurus.
He definitely has a lot of earth-based inspirations, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, his back is actually a hill. Like, there's grass on it and everything. There's, like, as we said, there's, like, these stone, like, slabs with runes on them sticking out of his back. And they look cool.
And let's not forget those massive stone slabs on his fist. Oh, you don't want to be at the end of one of those.
Oh, no. Those look awesome, by the way. I want to see those punch through a skyscraper.
Oh, yeah. He could level an entire city by himself.
Yeah,
There-
and he's
There's
got
just one thing that kind of perplexes me, and it's not so much in his design, but one of his primary weapons is electrical discharge.
Yeah, that is very confusing. Where did that come from?
yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere, but it's magic. I ain't gotta explain anything. All right, deal with
All
it.
Yeah.
right.
We'll
Uh,
talk more about that when we get to
the
range combat.
combat. But real quickly, some more things about his design before we move on. He's got this great face. Like his mouth just looks awesome. It's like all
Yeah,
craggy and
he's got a
great.
nice broad face, which really kind of it sets in his design, and it makes him kind of recognizable, I think.
It's kind of carved, really.
Yeah, carved is actually a very good word. And he's got this club at the end of his tail. That looks cool. It
It's
almost
like
looks
more
like
of a
something.
mace, man, not a club. It's
A,
got
ma-
those
a
sides.
mace is actually, yeah, that's a much better description. But like, it's the kind of thing that when I look at it, I was like, that's a quick moving weapon. But he's not in any way a quick kaiju. So I'm very
Oh.
looking forward to seeing how that will work slowly, like how that
But
will work as a weapon.
Yeah, but he is very much based around tearing up not just the enemy, but also the land around him.
Yes.
He is a one-man demolition crew.
Which we can get into as soon as we get into the energy system.
Which I believe we can do now, because I mean, it's not like there's much left to discuss about his design, is there?
Not
One
No.
thing I would like to say, actually, real quick before we move on, and this just popped into my head right now. I'm not calling ripoffs or anything at all, so I'm sorry if I'm making it sound like I am. I really am not. I'm not being sarcastic or anything. But his hands and even a bit his posture reminds me of Leatherback in Pacific Rim.
Oh
Because
yeah,
Leatherback has like that armor on his forearm, and it just
yeah, they both have that kind of gorilla-like stance almost.
yeah. The only difference is I think it's pretty clear Tersakra can walk bipedally much more comfortably than I think Leatherback ever could.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get into the energy system.
Oh yes, the energy system, and I love how he regains his energy.
Oh, this
Destroy everything.
This is one of probably the most fun of the energy systems. Is just destroy everything around you, and from that destruction, you will regain the energy of all the like stuff you just crushed. It's awesome.
One
Yeah,
thing I'd
and-
like to bring. Oh, sorry, you go, Spot.
Yeah, it's well, not only that, but it also ties into his design rather well because he's very much has earth inspirations. He's very much an earthy kaiju, so it makes sense that he draws his energy from the earth. And what better way to get your energy from the earth than by tearing it up and getting it into you?
So yeah, it's pretty great. That's one of the things about Tersakra, and bringing this back to the old Godzilla games of yore. One of the problems I had with that game is building destruction was great, but you didn't really have a reason to do it most of the time. It just kind of happened in the middle of your fighting.
Yeah, outside of maybe getting some better ways to move around the map.
Or to throw a building at
Or
somebody.
throw the only I was about to say the only exception was throwing a building, but I don't know how well that qualifies, honestly.
Yeah.
Because
Still fun.
it was fun. It was also really spammy, especially in Unleashed, but
Yeah.
that's besides the point. We're not talking about those games. We're talking about CKC. So I'm glad to see that we're introducing reasons for the player to destroy the environment. And I mean, it'll just be great. He's going to be really vulnerable though once he's destroyed everything.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'd like to bring up is that we don't have a lot of buildings for the first game. Isn't that right?
That is true, and that's also something I was also going to bring up is much like Macros, he doesn't have Macrosource's like wormhole ability that he can make. So if he's in like, the boxing ring map that we've mentioned prior, I don't know how he's going to play. Like he's going to be sweating under the collar there.
Yeah. I suspect we're going to get that figured out because obviously Tersagra is going to be appearing in Fall of Nemesis, not Kaiju Land Battles. And Kaiju Land Battles is the first one that's going to come out, and it's going to be free, and that's basically going to be our beta test to really get things ironed out and solid in place.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they figure out how to balance him in the maps, essentially. Because we've seen there's also a map which is kind of like a forest plain type deal. It has a lot of trees in it, but they're so sparsely around each other that I hesitate to call it a forest.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how they can keep regaining energy while still not making it
Destroying.
broken.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there is a little bit more to his energy system. He can regain some energy through the Earth directly, but doing so is very, very, very slow.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I completely overlooked that. Well, thank you, Zombie.
No, no problem.
See, that's why you're the one with the PhD in tersocrology and not us.
I don't think
Yes.
that's an actual PhD.
It is now. Deal with it.
No, I will not
They're
deal
adding
with
it to Bradley and Harvard.
So yeah.
What the hell's a Harvard?
So moving on to the ranged combat, we've said before he's got a bolt of green electricity, which is I imagine he shoots it out of his mouth.
Yeah,
It's
it's his weaker weapon. Like in the Godzilla games, Godzilla had his fireball and then his actual atomic beam. So
Yeah, and the fireball was much weaker. This is also short range, so obviously you're gonna be using this when you're up close and personal with people. I honestly, it doesn't have many reasons I see for someone to use it. I think this is gonna be a very unused attack because it doesn't really have any bonuses to it. It's just kind of a beam that you have at short range, and if you're at short range, well, you're just gonna punch them.
yeah, Tersagra is someone you want to actually get in someone's face with, but it's going to be hard to do that since one
So
of his things about him is that he's really slow.
yeah, I mean he's the biggest kaiju, but he's also one of the slowest. He's not the slowest, but he's
Second slowest, I'd imagine.
I believe he's second slowest. And then the slowest is more Titan, if I recall, which we'll discuss
Yes.
next.
Yeah.
Once again, just throwing that out there. Movement, Sunstone. We need a movement section. All right, I'm done. So he has that, but the more important ranged weapon that he has is that he can throw stone shards at his opponents and they detonate on command. So essentially, he tosses grenades.
Which is awesome and manly as hell.
My one question is, where the hell does he grab these from? Like, does he just?
I imagine his wrist.
Does
I
he?
imagine he sort of ejects them from the stone slabs on his hands or maybe his back. The runes on his back, possibly, but
See, because in the wiki it says that he hurls them. So to me, that implies that he has them in his hand and he throws them, rather than ejecting them from some body part. Which
or maybe he shoots them off of his tail. That is a pretty
the tail makes sense. I could see the tail actually.
Yeah, that would work.
All right, I'll believe that until we have further evidence. But those are cool.
And speaking of his tail, that also ties into his range combat because he can use his tail to cause small earthquakes.
Yes, which is awesome in
Yes.
every way. Earthquakes are just a cool power to have.
Oh yeah.
Especially for a kaiju. It's awesome.
it's one of the most powerful moves in Pokemon.
It is. Just throwing that out there, people. But yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of curious. Here's my question for the earthquakes, though. It says that he creates localized earthquakes. So my question is, does that mean the earthquake is just around the area around him, or does it actually immediately go to wherever his opponent is?
I imagine he's just close by him.
I imagine what you guys are saying is that it's in an area around him.
That would be the logical assumption. I agree with you. That's the better one. But the way it looks is like reading this. Here's the sentence, all right? Tersocra can use his mighty stone tail to cause localized earthquakes, which trip up monsters and are an excellent way to clear out nearby obstructions. The way that is worded to me makes it sound like he can aim that. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
I know, you see the word nearby, that implies it's pretty close to him.
That is true. I don't know. I mean, Simon can confirm or deny this when this comes out. I'm going to forget about this because by the time this comes out, we're going to be like 2 episodes ahead. But I mean,
In the future.
it'll be nice. So, yeah, those are all of his ranged combat. He's not, a ranged fighter, but he definitely has some options available to him.
Well, he's got some strong options for ranged combat.
He
A lot
does.
better than some other ones.
Especially
Yeah,
when we compare him to, like, Duncan, who has practically no options for ranged combat outside of his boomerang and the bomb.
Yeah, so basically, maybe the green electricity can be just a short little thing that he can use if the quick fighter is basically taking too many pot shots at him and he needs something quick to get out at them.
Maybe it's like Baragon's beam in Save the Earth, where he doesn't charge it up. He just pushes the button and just a little spout of fire really quick.
Yeah.
And it just shaves off some energy. So maybe it's like that. I could see that being much more helpful. So, now we can move on to the grappling. He's very strong, as we've kind of established.
We've already established that he's strong, but he's slow.
So, yeah, an agile opponent could usually just kind of get out of that.
Sidestep him, basically.
Yeah, sidestep and just avoid that. But so his grappling isn't very effective, unless he's against another really lumbering opponent, like say maybe Macro
Or Morotai.
or Mora Titan. I'm trying to avoid talking about Mora Titan though, because we're gonna do that right now. But on the plus side, since he's so heavy, he's not really gonna get grappled with either, because very
Yeah.
few people can lift him.
So it's kind of a downside that he's slow, but I mean, if he can grapple, he's going to be able to grapple just about anybody, probably even Macrosaurus a bit.
Yeah, so that's pretty great.
If it weren't if it weren't for the fact that Macrosaurus was so damn fast.
Oh yeah, so fat. I mean fast. Like fat
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, surprisingly fast.
As for his melee combat, this is where he really shines. He's got a heavily armored body because he's made of stone and whatnot. So obviously that makes him have a lot of attack and a lot of defense points, I suppose is what we'll call it.
And he likes to beat the crap out of thing with his amazing stone fist.
Yeah, basically. And even cooler, he can explode his fists on impact, which causes a bunch of extra explosive damage. Which, I mean,
It's amazing.
It's awesome. It's so cool, I can't imagine it in my head. Like, I literally can't imagine that.
Yeah, people are going to be dealing most of their damage up close with Terracross, so
He can
people
use
are
his,
good.
tail as well, which is great.
People are going to need a really defensive kaiju to even withstand some stuff that's coming from him, or a really fast one to get away.
I imagine he has a lot of knockback on his attacks, though.
Yeah.
That's how it makes it sound. I mean, just having an exploding fist, that sounds like it's going to send somebody flying.
Yeah, and then it's going to be a pain to catch up to them.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he does have long arms though. So he does have
he's got very long reach for a guy his size.
So that's kind of an upside to his slowness. And his jump allows him to stretch out and grab some stuff, although he loses some of his mobility doing so. Because, he's a giant rock monster in the air. It's not exactly the most aerodynamic thing in the world, is it?
Well, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I'm surprisingly not too much that we can really pick at with Tersakura. But his weaknesses, as he's kind of beat to death by now, he's slow. So it's really easy for a fast opponent like, say, Duncan or Katusha to avoid him. Katusha, I get the feeling, is just going to rip Tersakura a new one. Because she's really fast. She's got a lot of powerful ranged attacks. And when she does move in close, she's all charging attacks. And they're all meant as hit and run. So if she does hit him, she's in and out, and he won't have time to get to her. So I think Katusha is just going to completely annihilate Tersakura.
If it weren't for the fact that he also has some defense to help him deal with those kinds of situations.
It'll be interesting. It's going to be a war of attrition for her if the two of them fought. Tersakura would definitely have the upper hand, both health-wise and defense-wise. So it's really a matter of whether or not Katyusha is able to weaken herself to the point that Tersakura is able to catch up to her and just wail. So it's one of those fights that's decided in 30 seconds.
Yeah. So, and another thing that's going to happen is people who are good at withstanding blunt damage will have an upper hand against Tersakura because his only edged damage is his tail.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, granted, we still don't know. The game hasn't come out, so we don't know his full animation list, or at least we can't see his full animation list in motion.
We can only speculate.
So it's anyone's guess exactly how many attacks he has with his tail. Maybe it won't be that big of a problem, because maybe he'll have plenty of attacks to deal with the edge damage with after all.
Or maybe he'll only have one. So
maybe he'll only have one. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we can't really say until now. So yeah, also fast opponents can invade the stone grenades, as I'm gonna call them. The wiki calls them stone shards, but really they're grenades. So I'm just gonna call them grenades. Stone.
So yeah, the electrical discharge will be his one thing that he's going to have to rely on to hit those super fast opponents like Katusha and Duncan. Yeah.
because it costs so little energy to use.
Which is pretty good. I mean, that's one advantage, although it is kind of weak. So
It's
I'm
Yeah.
handy.
it's just a thing that's there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Tersakra, he's slow, but one thing about him is that he may be slow, but it's not so much that he's weighed down as he's just not really in a hurry.
Yeah.
He's going at his pace. He's just an old grumpy old guy, and he wants those damn kids off his lawn.
Yeah.
So that's
You're off
about
my
it.
lawn, you stupid kids.
Who's the guy who invented that quote? I want to say Bruce Willis, but that's probably not right at all.
It was Tersakra.
All right, yeah, it was Tersakra.
He was around 4,000 years before Bruce Willis.
So yeah, that's about all we have to say about him. That's about all.
All right, guys, we're gonna get into our next monster here, and that is Moratitan. He's a giant eel that comes to us from the Great Barrier Reef. I'm pretty sure it's the Great Barrier Reef.
It says massive coral reef in the South Pacific. It doesn't
All
specify.
right.
So
Not even close.
we're just gonna say the Great Barrier Reef because
Yeah.
reasons.
It's a giant reef. It's a giant reef that he's coming from, and he's a giant mutated eel that came from obviously some toxic waste stuff that caused him to mutate and gain control over the coral that was surrounded in him. And
Using
now
nothing?
he's gonna rip the company that destroyed his whole reef a new one. So
Yeah, so basically he's got like an exosuit of coral, and then there's just an eel inside of it. It is literally one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. He just
he is
looks
the
so cool.
Iron Man of CKC.
In the most unconventional way too, and I adore his design. His design is probably my favorite, just visually speaking. He just
Yeah,
looks so cool. And I have a thing where I just love like split jaws or like multi-jawed mouths, like more than two jaws. And he's got that. Like his lower jaw is like split in half, and it's just like it looks so cool. God,
yeah,
I love
I
this.
really love his design. I love the green complemented with the light bluish green. And definitely it's one of the more unconventional designs, a giant eel that's set itself up in a coral suit,
And
which
then
is really cool.
And then like he's got his right hand, which is a mace of like coral, and he's got his left hand, which is like a polyp with like this like little nom nom mouth inside that's like a circle and tentacles all around it. And those tentacles can like extend and grab stuff, and he'll like go like nom nom. And he's just so cool. I love Moratitan. He's so cool.
Yeah,
But
I gotta agree with you on there. He's one of the best design monsters in the game, I think.
yeah, honestly I don't think we have yet to have a monster with the design that just sells as well as this. Like more Titan action figures would go off the charts. Maybe like I don't know, Galnaga or Chalanra might be
Yeah.
up there. But More Titan is just the most awesome design ever. I love More Titan.
I love his design.
I feel guilty not having him as my favorite, but I like Nemesis just that much more.
Yeah,
Who can
It-
blame
it's
him?
it's hard.
to each their own.
Oh yeah.
So, Zombie, your thoughts on More Titan after that minor fanboy gasm?
Yeah. Well, I like Moratitan. He kind of reminds me. I see him kind of like the CKC version of Godzilla in a way. I mean, he's a giant monster who's been transformed by an ecological disaster, and now he's hell bent on revenge against all humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, that makes sense. And there's something kind of tragic about More Titan, isn't there? Just like his desire, like all he wanted was to be left alone, and now like they screwed with him. So now he's just got to go, like make
And now
sure
he literally cannot be left alone. He's gonna either search out a place to find as his own home, and then he's gonna get bothered for doing such a thing, or he is going to try and find the people who did those things, and he's just gonna be making his own problems. So yeah, he's a very one of the very most obvious tragic characters when you think about it in that sort of mindset.
Yeah, so he's great. And it's pretty awesome to point out the origin to his origin is that Moratitan was designed by like a 12-year-old if I recall.
That's just amazing right there when you think about it.
Yeah, what a kid to have come up with this. He was 12 when he made this, right? Like right now he's not 12 anymore. I think.
It's like 13 or 14.
Yeah, he's like 13 or 14 now. He's on the forums, and I believe his name is Ian, if I recall. I know he's a viewer of the podcast. I'm fairly certain. So shout out to you, Ian, for making an awesome kaiju. Nice job.
Congratulations.
Yes.
If I recall, the story Simon told was that Ian approached him at G-Fest when he was advertising CKC in its early Genesis days, and a lot of the progenitors that we have here of these kaiju were people who paid in the very early days of CKC. You paid $500 and you got a kaiju in the game, and Ian was like some kid, but since he was like a 12-year-old, he couldn't afford that kind of money. So he and Simon like worked out a deal that he would raise like $250 or something, like half the money, and Simon would accept it because they just like really liked the design and it was just a great monster, something along those lines. It's just a good story.
Yeah.
So yeah, props
But,
to you kids. Nice done, nicely job.
Yeah.
Oh
and
my god,
with that,
I said nice done, nicely job when I should have said nice job, nicely done. I'm an idiot.
yeah. There's a lot of things unique about Morton. One of the things that maybe isn't quite so unique is his energy system, because it just says that his energy regains energy over time.
So
But
to balance that out though, it does decrease when he takes damage.
Yeah.
Especially
Especially-
heat or nuclear based.
as it says right there, yeah. So definitely it very much shows that he's a water type kaiju.
Yes.
Heat or nuclear, not something he wants to be around. So maybe that might play into maps that are half land, half water.
That would be cool.
We don't know.
That'd be interesting.
If that deals heat type effects on one half or water type effects on another, that'd be really cool to play around with.
Yeah.
It'd be a nightmare to program, I imagine. But
probably.
yeah,
So
but
many
still,
bugs.
So with that, let's try and get into something else. His range,
Real quickly, something I want to point out that we kind of glanced over, but Mortitan has two things that make him pretty awesome. The first is he's got this thing called the Riptide Force, which draws objects towards him, including the environment. So I guess it'll just auto destroy stuff around him, which will suck if he's fighting, like, say, Tersakra, because, hey, see that environment you need to regenerate energy? Oh, it's gone now. Sorry about that.
and not to mention Tersakra, he fights up close, so Mortine's kind of just doing him a favor.
Yeah, that is true. He will draw Tersakra closer to him. But if we're fighting somebody like, say, Duncan will have a hard time getting away if he needs to. Duncan will want to be up close, but he does not have the firepower, for lack of a better word, to really break through that skeleton and beat the hell out of Mortitan. So being up close is not going to end up well for Duncan. He's going to want to stay on his feet, kind of, doing stuff. So the Riptide Force is a really cool game changer in that it will force opponents to be near you. It's going to screw with a lot of strategies. And the second thing that's definitely going to screw with people, even more so, is that he's covered in poison.
Yeah,
and, like, toxins.
Not only can he deal out a lot of damage, he can also deal out poison damage. So it sounds like he's going to be a slow, heavy fighter with a lot of elemental effects that he can use to his advantage.
And if I recall correctly, hitting him can also afflict you with poison damage. If I recall. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I could be wrong entirely. But I remember somewhere someone saying, I think it was if you're in the Riptide like field, you start taking poison damage. And if you get out of it, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you need a certain period of like time. Let's see. Yeah, it says monsters hang on. Yeah, it does say that he constantly exudes low levels of toxins which drain health over time.
Yes.
That's more. That said, aside from all that, Mortitan does have an energy weapon he can fire from his mouth, but only for beam
struggles.
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
I don't get that. That's odd. It doesn't even say what kind of beam fight it is, or not beam fight, beam it is. I don't know what it looks like. like what kind of damage it deals. Like I don't know. It's weird. How does that work?
Well, it says it's not a damage-dealing attack, and it's
Yeah,
only
that's
used for
true.
beam fights.
I
So
don't know.
I'm rather curious why he got this attack when there are several other characters who probably don't have an attack to counter beam weapons.
Yeah, this is a really awkward thing to have. I'm not really sure. For such an amazing thing that More Titan is, I kind of dislike this. Like, either give him a beam or don't. Like, just don't do this kind of in between stuff. It's unnecessary.
Yes.
Also, he can launch chunks of coral from his arms, which expand on impact with another monster, which will slow and partially immobilize them. So
It also,
basically, it's like shooting glue at them. I'm guessing only instead of glue, it's coral.
and interesting enough, it works with the Riptide Force.
It does. Hang on. What? Oh yeah, yeah, okay, that was dumb. But when they do get afflicted by these coral chunks, they are more strongly affected by the Riptide Force. But yeah, so he's got these wonderful coral blues. Bringing you up to speed. We just finished Rage Combat Spalian, so yeah.
Yeah.
Grappling. He can grab opponents with his polyp hand, as he said, and as we've also said before, the hand kind of extends and grabs people, and like kind of like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat, he can go like, "Get over here," and like drag them towards him.
He's
Yeah,
got
that's
great range, but he has very average strength.
So yeah, and not to mention he's also got one hand that's not an actual hand; it's a mace, and that makes grabbing things kind of awkward.
yeah. So he's
So
not. He's not quite gonna be like Tercercraw, where he's just gonna be able to grapple everything that he can get his hands on. It's more gonna be like he's only gonna be able to do a couple of guys at a time. But
And really, most of the time, he's not even going to want to grapple. It's not a very safe strategy a lot of times.
yeah, he's gonna have trouble with the heavier characters like Macrosaurus and Tercercraw.
Definitely. So, really not much else to say about his grappling. So now we can move on to his melee combat. Much like Tersakra, he's a very melee-focused character, but he technically is control because he has so many things that he relies on. He's got his poison, his Riptide effect, and just
Coral.
all this stuff. Coral. It's just so it makes him a bit more complex than just melee combat. So
Yeah.
obviously most of his attacks will be with his mace hand. It'll either be with the spikes, which I guess they come in and out because it says with spikes or without spikes. So maybe they extend or like
Retractable spikes, probably.
retractable. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
He's like Wolverine.
So I guess when he has the spikes out, it'll do edged and poison damage, and when he doesn't, it'll just do blunt. They tend to be really slow and heavy because he's not really capable of rapid movement. He is the slowest monster in the game at present. I'm just saying, movement section would be really handy right now, wouldn't it? But yeah,
There's something right there.
Yeah, but it does sound like he's going to have sort of like a little mechanic that allows him to that makes his armor fall apart, but he himself will be able to move around the map.
yeah, well, I've heard tell of that, but I don't know exactly if that's gonna be in the game or not. But I have heard the idea of More Titan abandoning his armor. Although,
Yeah, it may have to do with defense cells. Maybe if something that we've also heard going around on the forums, but that we're not terribly sure of, if maybe his defense cells go down, his coral body will break apart, and then he himself will have to fend for himself for a little while before he can build up the strength to reform it.
and I kind of have my doubts on whether or not that's gonna be in the game. This is very controversial. We really don't know, but if it were, like we'd have to like model More Titan as an eel on his own, and there's no evidence they've done that. It looks
Yeah.
like he's just gonna be in his body all the time, which
Yeah.
I'm okay with. Honestly, we don't need his core body to fall apart. Now, a really cool thing about him animation wise is his body, like his coral body and his actual eel body contrast because his coral body's slow and lumbering, but his eel body's all quick and slithery, and it's like it's clear that he's like although his attacks with his arms are really slow and powerful, he can still do quick jabs with his head that probably have pretty long range considering his lengthy neck.
Yeah, and just getting it back into a design for just a bit, it's really interesting how those two contrasting parts not only contrast in playstyle, but also in color, because uh, More Titan is green, but his body is red, which are both the complementary colors in the color wheel.
Once again, bringing that back up from Microsaurus, and it's very true. He's Christmas colors, only not Christmas, only Deathmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it for his melee combat. Plenty of options, but he relies a lot on keeping his opponents close, which is basically his big weakness is that he's so slow and he has basically no ranged attacks outside of his coral stuff that he really can't rely on his opponents getting away. Like he cannot allow that to happen. If his opponent gets far away, he's screwed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, he makes up for that with his poison, and which he can deal out again with his coral polyps or his spikes.
And also, not to mention, he's a freaking tank. He's got a lot of defense, and I'm pretty sure a lot of health too. So he's not an easy thing to kill.
Yeah.
Or KO, I guess. And his energy. Of course, we've already discussed that his energy can be disrupted, which is a bit of a problem. Especially ranged characters are just gonna screw him over. Once again,
Heart Eater, yeah, those guys.
Katyusha's and versus Titan will be one of the most interesting matches ever, I think, because Katyusha's all about keeping her opponents away, and Titan's all about keeping them close. But he may be so heavy that she may have difficulty like blasting him away, so she'll have to rely more on her mobility. So that'll
he'll be so afflicted by her attacks that he'll need to find ways to power up the Riptide Force.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. I actually think probably some of the most intense fights in the game will probably be between Titan and Katyusha. Still calling her Katyusha on accident every once in a while. I'm sorry, audience. Don't send me more death threats.
Yeah, those would be nice.
So yeah, that's about all that we have to do to discuss about Titan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Say we're about done here, so let's wrap it up. All right, so we've discussed the kaiju as is on the checklist. Good stuff. I am enjoying both. They're both great. You're both wonderful co-hosts. Thank you for being here with me tonight. But before we go, we have to do one more thing. We have the Colossal Kaiju fan mail. So today we have 3 questions. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right. So first question. In terms of strictly art visual design, which progenitor do you think is the best? Now, I've already kind of answered that because I did say I like Titan's design the best. So you guys go.
Are they just talking about progenitors from the first 2 releases, or just all of the progenitors?
I would think all of the progenitors. It doesn't really say.
All right.
Why don't you just do both? Do from the first 2 releases and then all of them.
Yeah. So what do you think, HZ? Still need to gather up your thoughts, or?
I'm trying to think of who I like the most from the, Fall of Nemesis part and the other original monsters. It's gonna be a close call here, man.
Yeah, this isn't an easy question. I'm gonna go ahead and think of who my favorite is from the other ones. Do you guys want to loop back around to this question? We'll do it last.
I can start off by saying from Kaiju Land Battles, Magnarok is very much my favorite. I just love characters that have a lot of glows.
Oh, but technically Magnarok wouldn't be a progenitor though, right? Because technically those are licensed characters.
Yeah, true.
So, all right. I don't know if that's really valid.
Yeah. From Fall of Nemesis, I would say... Ooh, that is a tough question.
Yeah, it is a hard one.
Yeah. I like Tornak because of the blue and white color scheme. I think that's really cool, but I like More Titan. He's just a really cool looking character. This is difficult.
Oh, I'm trying to think I'm looking at the list of other characters and I'm not really getting anywhere. Who do I like the best? You know what? I think I know who I like the best of the other original monsters, strictly visually speaking. I'm gonna get so much flack for this, but I don't care what you guys say. Kikaron, all right? I love me my giant space chickens, all right? Mike
He's got chicken legs.
It's got chicken legs. Vader Zim reference out
chicken legs.
Doom, 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 doom. Okay.
Be careful not to call it him though, because Kicker
Oh,
Run
right.
It
canonic.
is now female, but we'll get to her when we get to her.
Yeah.
So before we'll probably loop back around to this question because I mean, this is a hard one. But if you guys have anything you want to say before we move on, and then just keep thinking about this, let me know now.
Yeah, I haven't a clue.
All right, you zombie.
I'll probably stick around to the end to tell you what I think, man.
All right, so the next question is from Peter the Gamer Guy. Have
Who?
any of you guys told and or shown non-kaiju fans CKC? And if you have, what did they think about it? I can confirm that I have friends that aren't hardcore kaiju fans, but they like the genre. They're not, so I don't know if that counts, but I have shown them. They were very, very, very interested.
I know I talked to some people about it, but I don't think I've actually shown someone it. And I know definitely that whenever I talked to someone about it, they were just like, "Oh, that's nice." Just gonna brush it away.
Yeah, you zombie.
Well, I've shown a couple of friends and family, some of the stuff, the card games and the original monsters. Very strange with the original monsters in my family. My family tends to side with the more goofier looking ones. Like, my mother's actually a big fan of Kavorstein and Prospector Heat.
Huh.
Well, I mean,
That's nice.
Prospector
it's
P
very
is just
strange.
amazing in every way, but that's a different thing. So I guess that answers that question. Moving on, the next question is from Agent Draco or Draco. I don't care how I pronounce that. How many bears does it take to take down Nemesis?
That's a trick question. Only one.
Not bad.
Tornak.
42.
Yes.
Fish. All right.
42.
Yes.
Really?
Clearly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah.
you divide square by the power of 9 to the
So all right, well that wasn't very long at all. So we're back down to this question, guys. The hard one.
Oh yeah,
I think from the originals, Enslaver is my favorite design-wise. I just
Oh,
really like the
by the
black.
way, I totally forgot to do this, but the first question was from Bamboo Shoots. I totally forgot to say that. Sorry about that.
Shout out to Bamboo.
Anyway, Bamboo. Enslaver is probably my favorite. I love the contrasting black and blue. Fun fact: red is actually the closest to black in the color wheel, so you do not use red type on black background. But
That's
getting
also
away from
why
that.
a lot of deep sea creatures are red colored, so that helps them blend in more easily.
Yeah, I just really love I love blue. Blue is my favorite color.
Blue is a nice color.
Yeah, it's just a really nice color, especially when paired with black. It makes something really sleek. Even though Enslaver's design is inherently kind of craggy, it just makes him. I don't know. It just makes him look that much nicer to me.
Oh yeah, definitely the doomsday of the bunch.
Yeah.
You zombie, real quickly before we wrap this up.
Well, the original monsters, I like Gondiva. He's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. He's a good design.
He's a nice blend of the machine and the mystical, the stone and the metal. It's just, a fun design to go with.
Yeah.
And he's blue.
He'll be fun to talk about when we get to him, but oh my god, guys, I just realized we are now over past the halfway point for Fall of Nemesis by the time this episode is over. Last episode was the halfway point.
Yeah.
So, wow, we're almost done, guys. That's pretty nice. So, I think with that, we'll wrap it up. This has been a wonderful podcast. I'm glad to have you both here. We'll be back hopefully next week to record. But of course, that doesn't matter to you guys, the viewers, because this episode's going to take a while to come out anyways. So, I'm Sharky.
I'm Spot Alien.
And I am Hungry Zombie.
And I'm Sharky. And this was the Colossal Kaiju Fan Podcast. We are signing off.